Hello again. I'm here now to show you some of the hardware options. Okay, so this is an image of the HP I was telling you about. Again, the DC5700. It comes stock with the Celeron D chip. This is not a chip we are interested in. It just doesn't have the power. So we upgraded the processor chip. To give you an idea of what this part's going to look like, I'll show you where it's at in the case, but for right now, it's easy to see the chip. It's going to come in a case like so. And the chip itself is not too big, about an inch or so. And this is the central processing unit. This is the main brain. Nothing intimidating about it. Pretty simple to install and replace. Easy to follow instructions, I imagine. And the other piece, the RAM, the random access memory. This is also important for the thinking power of the computer, but again, just simple pull stuff out, put stuff in. Not too difficult at all to follow, I imagine. Alright, so first step we gotta do is get this cover off. There's going to be various directions from the manufacturers on how to pull the covers off. Sometimes there's a screw, like in this case, pulling off the screw. Once I've got the screw off, just simply push down and pull the cover off. My bad. Hang on. It's harder to video this. I'm using my cell phone. Surprisingly difficult to hold one hand. Alright. Okay, so you press down and slide the case back, and then it just lifts off nice and easily. Alright, now that we're looking in here, what you can see is this is the optical drive. This holds for the DVDs, etc. that you can place in. The hard drives are underneath it. We'll get to those in a moment. Back here we have the power supply, a ton of cords leading from the power supply. That's always a good sign that they're there. It gives electricity and data from a variety of sources. The electricity going to the board, for example. This red cable here is what's called the SATA connector. That's a form of cable for transferring the data. That's to be the one that'll go to the hard drive. Back over here, as you can see, kind of connects down there. Then what you're looking at, a lot of people see usually, is this green piece down here. The green, everywhere you see the green, that's the motherboard itself. That's attached by various screws. You can see a couple of them here, and there's maybe 10 or 12 of them around the board. The main point of that is just to keep it secure in its case. Obviously, you can always buy a new case and upgrade these things. Another important factor that will help your process is, in addition to knowing the motherboard, you're going to want to know this guy here. This is called the chipset. The chipset varies from motherboard to motherboard and highly determines what kind of CPU you can place in the motherboard. Again, lots of this is available on Google. Here you can see a heat sink. This is helping dissipate the heat as a lot of electricity runs through here. Heat needs to be dissipated, and various things you see along here. These larger kind of cylinder looking devices are capacitors to help store the electricity and increase the flow throughout the board so it gets everywhere it needs to be. These are empty right now. If you had a graphics card, they would go into one of these slots. This is a PCI slot. This is a PCI Express. This is a PCI. I don't need those. Again, I chose a processor that can handle my streaming videos. That was the Intel Pentium, or if you need to do Blu-ray, the Intel 2 Duo Core. Back here, kind of logistics, things that you may or may not need. A lot of the stuff that you're plugging into the back of your computer, your USBs, your video outputs, sound outputs, not too important for what we're doing here. Okay, so backing up here, again, optical drive over here, power source over here, graphics cards if you need them. The chipset is going to tell you what kind of compatibility this motherboard has to upgrade the CPU. Alright, let's move on now to another important factor. This is just a cover that helps direct the air to the central processing unit. The fan is here on the front, draws the air in and uses this plastic cover to guide the airflow. This is important mainly because you need to cool off that central processing unit. Some of the advanced gamers will have like liquid cooling options. This is just fan cooled. Alright, so I'm going to pull these cables out of the way so I can move the fan, expose what's called the heat sink. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the heat sink. This heat sink is very much like a radiator for your car. In fact, it kind of looks like it when you're looking up close. The heat sink's job is to take the heat from the central processing unit and cool it by increasing the surface area. And in some cases, they'll have liquid cooling that comes through here, so the water helps cool it instead of just air cooling. But not really necessary. It is, however, probably going to be important to have a heatsink, as running video for streaming video is going to put a lot of pressure onto that processor. So keeping it cool will help keep your electric bill down and kind of help operate. You can't see the central processing unit, but you can see the edge of where it's held into the board here. This is what clips in the central processing unit. Again, that's this square device is underneath this guy here, like about so, kind of at an angle though in this one. It's not too difficult. You can watch some probably other videos to figure out how to take it off or put it on. A lot of these things, again, are just held down by screws. You can do flathead or Phillips. It even's got the star point, I think, on there that you can use. So just kind of whatever tools you have. You can see a couple more of the screws holding the motherboard down there. Alright, so assuming that you can figure out how to change the central processing unit from what I've given you here, I'd like to now point out the RAM, which is kind of difficult to see. The RAM here are these four pieces. Zoom back out a little. 1, 2, 3, 4. I definitely recommend you do at least, you always pair. So if you're going to do 2, and you want whatever your configuration is going to be, just make it an even number so that you always have 2s, 4s, pairs of these RAMs, and then they come in 512 or 1 gigabytes, or even on the modern stuff 2 and 4 gigabyte configurations. You shouldn't need any more. I got 4 gigabytes. These are each 1 gigabyte a piece, and that does more than enough work for me on the central processing unit. Okay, so here I'm going to show you how to take out the optical drive. Not every box, this is the case, not every case is going to have this configuration for how to get your optical drives, including the hard drives, in and out. Some will have screws that you'll have to unscrew, others will just slide out though, just like this one. So you press down this button and simply lift. You'll press down and then just simply lift back, and then you can slide it up and it slides out. Here on the back you can see this is some for the data, and the power then goes right here. This is kind of common for all of them. They all get the same or similar connection for the power. You can just undo that power. It'll kind of tight, cramped quarters here. It'll give you some more working space. And set that drive off to the side. Alright, so now what we're looking at here are the hard drives. You can see I've got the Seagate Barracuda, 2 terabytes. They list it in gigabytes though. Don't know why. Doesn't really matter. You can choose again your hard drive just kind of based on your needs. Some simple Google searches should help you figure that out. Again, there's another hard drive under this. I'm not going to pull it out as well, just kind of save time here. You would just push this down, slide it back, and it lifts up nice and easily because the screws slide into these 4 corner slots that are around the case. You can kind of see the side of this one here. It slides in and then push it back a little and it locks it into place. The connections, again, you've got a power connection, that's this guy, and the data connection. This is the SATA. Alright, and I think that should pretty much give you enough information to replace everything that I've recommended and give you a good starting point for getting that hardware going. And if you follow that Lifehacker site very closely, it's going to pretty much guide you through everything else you're going to need to set up that home media server. Alright, I hope you got the point that these how-to videos are exceptionally helpful and are a transformation of what we consider education, and makes it kind of a new domain that we might not have expected previously. So, thanks for watching, and I hope you got something out of it.